Welcome back, everyone, to the Bears Profit Plays podcast here on our YouTube channel. Today is December 2nd, and we have a jam-packed show for you guys. But before we get into the show, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and make sure to like the video. It goes a very long way for us, and we really do appreciate the support. All right, packed show tonight. I'm going to break down the segments. We have Dog of the Weekend. We're going to look at the Saturday College Football Championship games and break down those games. We then have our Championship Week player props, NFL breakdown for Sunday and NFL player props, weekend bet slips, and finally, the Podcast Parlay. So we have a lot to discuss, so let's get right into the Dog of the Weekend. This is how it works for you guys at home. We all pick an underdog to win their game. If they win, we get the points that they were underdogs by. Very simple, and we will start with Trey.
Yeah, I think this needs to be said because I was the only one who had a winner last time we did the Dog of the Weekend, so I think people should ride me. I'm going to go with the Broncos plus 9.5. I think this is kind of disrespectful that the number is so big. If you want to take the money line, that is a pretty big payout, so I like that. Russell Wilson has gotten a lot of flack over honestly this whole season, so I think that he might go into Baltimore and pull off this win because it could be argued that the Denver Broncos have a better overall roster than the Baltimore Ravens. It's honestly just coaching. It's the Denver Broncos versus the Baltimore Ravens coaching staff, and I think that's where Baltimore gets the heavy edge. But I believe in the Denver Broncos to pull off the upset.
All right, Broncos plus 9.5 for Trey to win that game. Teats, how about you?
I had some thoughts. I had some feelings. I had to go against my gut and find a different feeling. Dude, I've been fading Clemson quite a bit this season, and I'm just going to keep it moving. I'm taking North Carolina plus 7.5. Drake May has let me down the last 2 weeks that I've talked about him, and I'm going to see if it's 3 weeks after this weekend, but I don't think it will. I think that Clemson, outside of their defense, outside of Will Shipley, they're just not that good. You know, it's weird to say because like the level of good is different than what, you know, just they're not trash, but they're just not the Clemson good that we're used to. And I think that this North Carolina team offensively, if they can get their heads out of the dumpster and get back on track to how they were, dude, they could put up some points. And I don't know if Clemson's offense can keep up.
All right, so North Carolina for Teats, Broncos for Trey. I'm going to take LSU, the big underdog to win against Georgia, an angry team, a very angry team, and missed their opportunity to get into the college football playoffs last week, laying an egg. This is going to be a great game, so I'm going to take LSU. I need the points because Trey got on the board with his last win, so I need to make up some ground here. So I'm going to take LSU.
Love that play.
LSU to win the game and get the 17.5 points. All right, those are our dogs of the week.
We do have a comment in the chat from Brett Zaccarello. What do you think of the Dolphins plus 9.5, Cowboys minus 4.5, and the Commanders plus 4.5, teased to plus 140? That's some good positive money. I mean, the one that I'd be more concerned about is the Cowboys, just because Jeff Saturday does have the boys buzzing, but the other two look pretty lockable. The Commanders are rolling in the right direction, and McDaniel does have the team buzzing there.
I think the lock in that entire tease is the Dallas Cowboys at minus 4.5. But that's just my
opinion.
That's just my unbiased opinion, not my favorite team. Unbiased.
Very
opinion.
Biased. Very biased.
Unbiased opinion. All right, let's get.
We like it.
No. We're not going to talk about Dallas Cowboys are elite. Here we go. We're going to get to the game for Saturday. First game on Saturday, the Big 12 championship game, the best game on the slate, in my opinion. Kansas State versus TCU. TCU is minus 1.5. The over/under is 61.5. Trey, I'll start with you.
My K-State Wildcats, they should have beat TCU last time, but as we all know, they were playing their third-string quarterback the majority of the second half. That game is the game that I was introduced to Will Howard in, and I was like, come on, our backup quarterback's in, and he actually lit it up, and then he got hurt right before halftime, and then we got mud stomped 21-0 run by TCU, and it ended up losing by 10 games, didn't even cover, and I was upset. But it will be noted, when Will Howard was playing against TCU, he absolutely demolished him. So I'm going to go K-State money line at plus 104, get some positive money to start off the day. I think that's a good lock right there.
I love that pick, Trey. And I will be the first to say I've hitched my wagon to this TCU team this year, and I have to get off of this game. This is the game it all comes crumbling down for the Horned Frogs. They have been escaping against good teams with a lot of good breaks. And one of them was against this K-State team. Like you said, Kansas State is going to hang 50 on TCU. And Will Howard and Deuce Vaughn and TCU will be knocked out of the college football playoffs in this game. Kansas State's going to thump them. I'm so confident in Kansas State. I'm going to take them at alt spread minus 9.5 as well as money line.
And I got so wrapped up in K-State absolutely demolishing this game that I forgot to deliver the trends. K-State is 4-1 ATS in their last 5 games against TCU. K-State is 4-1 ATS in their last 5 games overall, and K-State is 4-1 ATS in their last 5 neutral site games. So conference championship games, bowl games, they love to show up for the big lights. I think K-State should win this game good.
I'll change my pick to minus 13.5 alt spread with those trends. I'll take K-State like 2 touchdowns against this TCU team. So K-State money line, K-State minus 14.5, and K-State minus 9.5. Teats?
I mean, how do I top that? I just that energy, that passion for this K-State team. Here's the thing. I am team riding with this for Kansas State to win. I would take the plus money for the money line. I don't know if I'd take the minus 13.5 for Kansas State when they're favorite or they're the underdogs in this game, but you know what? I think that Kansas State is going to run away with this one. I also like the over. I feel like both teams can definitely put some solid points up on the board. Last time they played, I think they went well into the 70s as a total points. So I think 61.5. I think K-State wins. TCU is going to hang around. They're going to have to score some points.
All right, so we're team riding on K-State to open up the championship weekend. Let's move on to our next game. The best game, not in talent-wise, but in entertainment-wise. The MAC championship game, Toledo versus Ohio. Toledo is -3. Over-under is 54.5. You know this game will have tons of wild plays and be fun to watch. So, Teats, I'm going to start with you.
Dude, I have been riding Ohio since I joined in on the Maction play, Maction fun, and I will continue riding Ohio. I'm going to take them +3. I'm going to take the field goal. Honestly, maybe take them +3.5 just because let's not tie this thing. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say about it. It's Maction football. You never know what's going to happen, but I like Ohio. They're dogs.
All right, so you're on Ohio +3. This is my members play lock on the website, so I'm not going to give a side here. I will say Ohio quarterback Curtis Rourke is out for the season, and Toledo has both of their quarterbacks, their starting quarterback and their backup quarterback, questionable for this game. So they're both lingering injuries. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. So, Trey, I'll go to you.
Yeah, like Teats said, Ohio is a team full of dogs. It doesn't bother me that Rourke's out for the season. Ohio would probably be favored by a touchdown in this game if he was playing. So I'm going to go with Ohio plus the 3.5. Teats was reading my mind. Ohio is 8-0 ATS in their last 8 games. Toledo is 0-5 ATS in their last 5 games. Toledo is 0-5 ATS in their last 5 games versus a team with a winning record. So all the trends point to Ohio. Ohio money line is probably a good play, but I'm going to take the points here at Ohio plus the 3.5.
All right, both you guys on Ohio to
Sandra,
cover.
we do have a comment. What do you think y'all's records would be by the end of this week? If you want me to be honest, there's 8 college football games, 4 NFL games we're picking. I think I could humbly say 12-0.
Yep, I was glad you said it because I'm definitely going 12-0 this weekend. I can feel it. Also 6-0 on my bet slip. I have 6 bet slips that we're going to get into later in the segment. But Teats, what do you think on your set? What do you think here?
Dude, I know myself too well. I know that I'm going to go probably 11-1. There's going to be one play. There's going to be one single play that's going to just get away from me. But I think that I'm feeling pretty good for this weekend. I'm excited.
I mean, we are not trying to hand out losers. We do our research, and we're confident in all of our picks. Sometimes there's bad beats, though, so just be aware.
Yeah, confidence is key picking these games. So, all right, let's move on to our next game, the Sun Belt Championship game. Coastal Carolina versus Troy. Troy is -7.5. The over-under is 47.5. Teats, I'll start with you on this.
So actually, if you guys go to Bears Profit Plays, you can read about this for free. I put this one out. If you don't want to go there, if you don't want to read all the fun things I talk about, I'll tell you real quick little condensed version. Troy -7.5 to play. Both teams are pretty run heavy. Troy has been on fire recently. They have been doing very well. Coastal Carolina literally just got curb stomped last week against James Madison. I actually had a play from them last week that barely covered. It was their over because Coastal Carolina's offense ended up in like Western Michigan or something, I think, because they were not anywhere near the game. So Troy -7.5. Coastal Carolina has lost all my confidence, and I think that's going to be it right there.
Yeah, I'm glad you said all that, Teats, because I know very little about both of these teams. But I did watch that Coastal game when they got stomped by JMU 47-7. They looked horrible on offense. Coastal also doesn't have their starting quarterback. And the offense can't move the ball without him. So Troy is playing in front of the home fans and have dominated their opponents. So I'm going to stick with Troy -7.5. Trey?
Yeah, it doesn't bother me at all that it is a touchdown spread. I think that they should win by a touchdown, but I'm going to go with Troy minus the 6.5. I'm going to
Play
just get
smart.
some insurance here and say that they should win this game by a touchdown, but I don't want to get stuck with that point. Troy is 4-0 ATS in their last 4 Sun Belt games. Troy is 8-2 ATS in their last 10 games overall. Coastal Carolina is 2-7 ATS in their last 9 games versus a team with a winning record. They did not look good last week in their first game without McCall, and I don't think it's going to look any better against the Troy defense that is honestly pretty good. So I think that Troy should win by a touchdown here. Troy minus 6.5 is the play for me.
All right, we're all riding Troy, sweeping the board there. Let's move on to the SEC championship game. LSU versus Georgia. Georgia's minus 17.5. Over under is 51.5. I'm going to start. I'm taking LSU money line. They're my dog of the weekend. LSU was winning it and potentially in, but like I said, they laid an egg against Texas A&M last week. Georgia's a very good team, best team in the country for a good reason, but LSU can let the world know that if they win this game and they would have got into the playoff, they could have won the national title. So I'm going to take LSU money line in this game. Trey?
Yeah, I didn't really buy into LSU at all this season because Brian Kelly is kind of a joke as a coach. And I mean, I don't like JT Daniels as a quarterback. I know you guys like him, but you have to be able to complete some passes in the tough situations for me to think that you can compete for a national championship. So I'm going to go with the over, though, because I do think that there is going to be a lot of scoring in this game, and JT Daniels should get some lanes to run the ball, and Georgia's offense can score 35 a game. So we just got to hope that LSU can score 20, 18 points. The over is 5-1 in LSU's last 6 games overall. The over is 4-0 in LSU's last 4 games in December. And the over in this matchup between Georgia and LSU is 7-2 in the last 9 games. So I think that this game should be high scoring. 51.5 is a pretty low total for a college football game. I do know that it's an SEC championship, so they're probably looking to show up for the draft. But I'm going with the over 51.5.
All right, over LSU. Teats?
Dude, that money line, it's looking good. But, dude, it's Georgia. And we had this conversation about Georgia whenever they play Tennessee. It is Georgia. I just think that 17.5 points is too much. I'm going to go with LSU plus 17.5. I mean, LSU has a reason to win this game, and Georgia really doesn't. I think that if Georgia loses this game, they're still making into the playoffs. So other than taking home an SEC championship, there's really nothing else about that game. Yeah, maybe seeding in the Final Four, but why risk your players getting injured before the actual stage happens instead of, taking one to the chin, maybe finishing third and fourth, and then going in and going back to dominating.
I agree. Even if Georgia loses this game, they're still going to be in the playoffs. So yeah. I agree with everything you said right there. All right, let's move on to the AAC championship game. We have UCF versus Tulane. Tulane is minus 3.5. Over under is 56.5. Trey, I'll start with you.
The Tulane Green Wave. I rode them last week against Cincinnati, and you guys all laughed at me. You guys rode Cincinnati and said there's no way. Tulane pulled off the win. It was kind of a late upset win, but a win's a win, and they gave me a good positive money line spread. So I'm going to go with Tulane, but I'm going to take them minus 2.5 here. Tulane is 9-1 ATS in our last 10 conference games. Tulane is 14-3 ATS in our last 17 games overall. And Tulane is 7-1 ATS in their last 8 games versus a team with a winning record. So their defense is really good, and their offense is just good enough to beat teams. So I think that Tulane minus 2.5 is the play.
All right, Trey. So here's where we're going to disagree. Tulane's a very good team. They have struggled against the run this year. When UCF and Tulane played early in the year, UCF ran for 200 more yards than Tulane in the game and won by 7 at Tulane. I like UCF in this game to win outright, even with Tulane playing like they have been recently. But I'm going to take UCF with the points plus 3.5 just to be safe, and the over 57. These teams should score with no problem against each other's defenses. Teats?
I mean, I feel like I can keep my segment short. I'm the same, only I'm taking the money line for Central Florida. Here's the thing. We were Tulane and Cincy. They played last week to get to the spot. Both teams, if they would have beat Central Florida, would have been essentially having a rematch in this exact same game right here. But who did they lose to? They lost to Central Florida. So Central Florida has earned their way to this game. There's a reason that they're here. There's a reason why Tulane has lost to them before. I know it's hard to beat a team again, but I think Central Florida they just know what they're doing. I think that they're going to win this game. I like the over, especially if Bear didn't talk about it. I was taking that as well. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, but I think Central Florida wins outright, and I love that positive money.
You know what? I didn't want you guys to be on my side anyways. I liked it a lot better last week. So
That's all right. Let's move on then. We're going to go to the Mountain West Championship game, Fresno versus Boise State. Boise State's -3.5 at home. Over under is 56.5. Teats, we'll start with you.
You know what, guys? I'll be honest, my feelings are really, really mixed on here. I didn't know where I wanted to go. It's almost like a dart throw for me. I'm taking Boise State -3.5. I feel like they are a team, a program who is seasoned enough. They have had lots of success in the past, and I think that they're just going to kind of keep riding that mentality.
I like it. Trey, let me hear some trends. I need some trends on this game.
hey, Boise -3.5 plus money. I guess even money at +100. You can't really argue with that. Boise State struggled to start the season, and I was fading them early, and it was paying off so much that their starting quarterback transferred away. And maybe that was just what they needed, because ever since that happened, they've been elite and they've been winning, and they came back, and here they are in the Mountain West Conference Championship game. I'm going to go with the over 54.5. I had it at 56.5. So even in the last hour and a half, this line dropped 2 points. So I love that even more. The over is 5-1 in Fresno's last 6 games overall. The over is 5-2 in Fresno's last 7 games on field turf. And the over is 5-1 in Boise's last 6 games on field turf. So like everyone says, once you get on that turf, you feel a lot faster. Both these teams are going to get at least 30 points this game. I was seeing 60 easy should be for the total, and for it to be 54.5, I like that.
Oh, you sold me. I'll take the over 54.5. And I'm also going to buy the hook here for Boise State -2.5. Boise State at home undefeated this season. So I'm going to take Boise State -2.5 and the over in that game. That's enough. Those trends are enough for me to take that over. Thank you, Trey.
You're welcome, sir.
All right, let's move on to the Big Ten Championship game. We have Purdue versus Michigan. Michigan -16.5, over under 51.5. Trey, I'll start with you.
Purdue. I know that we all in the betting world like to look for trends. And Aiden O'Connell, Purdue starting quarterback, his brother died last week, and we all are all looking for edges. And I think that he's going to have a lot of motivation to win this game, but I'm not going to take them plus 550 money line. I'm going to take them plus 15 or plus 16.5. And the trends back that up too. The trends back up my heart, because I think Purdue is going to be playing with a lot of heart this week. Purdue is 5-1 ATS in their last 6 games versus a team with a winning record. Purdue is 5-1 ATS in their last 6 neutral site games, so conference championship games, bowl games. And Michigan is 1-5 ATS in their last 6 games in December. Everyone knows Michigan starts off hot, but once it gets cold, once it's the important games in December, the real John Harbaugh comes out, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I don't hate the pick. Michigan in this game is the far better team. We saw it last week when they dominated Ohio State, but I think this is a trap game for Michigan. I really do. I think Purdue may even be leading this game at the half. I'm going to take Purdue plus 16.5, but Michigan to win the game. Teats?
I wish I could dive in. I wish I can tell you guys why you're either right or wrong, but we're just going to have to read that article that I posted on Bears Profit Plays. This is my member pick right here.
Whoa.
All right, so we have Purdue plus 16.5, Purdue plus 16.5, and Teats' member pick on BearsProfitPlays.com. Let's move on to the last game of the day, the ACC Championship game. Clemson -7.5 versus North Carolina. The over-under is 63.5. Teats, I'll start with you.
You know what? North Carolina money line. Give me that plus 240. Throw it all on there. This Clemson team, like I said earlier, they're good. They're borderline elite at this point, but they are missing a huge piece, and that is an actual competent quarterback. We were thinking that DJ was going to be the next dude. He's replacing Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun Watson. We're thinking that he's just going to take over, keep this program moving. And let me tell you, he's doing something, but I don't think it's a good or positive. He kind of disappears in big games, and he's really my biggest factor for this. I think Drake May will have to have a bounce back game, especially if he wants to keep his draft stock high. I think that North Carolina themselves, if they want to have any sort of pride ending this season, they have to win this game. So I'm taking North Carolina money line here.
Teats, North Carolina has hurt me so many times. So out of spite, I'm going to take Clemson minus 7.5. North Carolina is supposed to have a good offense. That's what the people say. That's what the stats say. I watched them last week against NC State, and this offense sucks. So North Carolina also has the worst defense in the country, in my opinion. So I'm going to take Clemson by 30 in this game. Trey?
Well, I'm going to go Clemson minus 6.5 for my pick. Who would have thought that coming into a conference championship game that both these teams would come into it with a loss? Clemson lost to South Carolina. North Carolina lost to North Carolina State. But who is better at bouncing back than Dabo Swinney? So I'm going to go Clemson minus 6.5. DJ Uwalungalele. I'm not too nervous about him throwing the ball. I mean, he's playing for his job at this point because if he doesn't perform here good, their backup 5-star quarterback is going to come in there, and he's been lighting the fire a couple games this year already. So he's playing for his job at this point. So I think Clemson minus 6.5 is the play.
All right. So we have Clemson, and North Carolina money line.
And
I wanted to be by myself.
And I mean, the trends back it up. Clemson is 15-2 ATS in their last 17 games in December. Dabo knows how to finish the season. Clemson is 5-1 ATS in their last 6 ACC games, and the betting favorite in this matchup is 5-1 ATS in their last 6 games.
Just gotta believe.
All right, let's switch over to the prize picks here. And get into some player props for championship weekend. Teats, I'm going to have you start with player props.
All righty. Well, I'm going to be bringing a trifecta, and it's going to be that quarterback threat. I'm looking at all passing props. We'll start with some Will Howard. We talked about K-State earlier. Let's kind of keep it with K-State for a second. Will Howard over 240.5 passing yards. There's been a couple weeks he didn't get it. He didn't need to get it against Kansas. Kansas is bad. I'm a KU fan. They're bad. Their defense is not good. And he did not get it against Baylor, but West Virginia 294, Oklahoma State 296. Didn't get it against TCU, but TCU.
And he only played like half a game against TCU.
He only threw 19 times in that game.
Yeah. So 240. I think that's very doable. He could probably get that by the end of the third quarter.
Easy.
My next play is Jay Kaner over 295.5 passing yards. Dude, he's been throwing the ball like no one ever has. Talk about playing for your job. He's averaging over 300 passing yards in the last 5 games. He had a little bit of a rough one last week, but I think this is a bounce back. And if they want to beat Boise State in this championship, he has to sling it. If he doesn't successfully sling, they lose. My last one, Taylon Green over 210.5 passing yards for Boise. I think it's kind of the same thing. I think that Boise State's going to have to keep pressure up. They might be able to run a little bit and balance out the whole offense. But as you can see, he's hit it in all last 5 games. I think that he's going to keep up the pressure, hit his receivers, get 210.5 yards pretty easy.
Heavy on the quarterbacks prop, Teats. I like it.
Huge quarterback prop.
Huge heavy. I'm going to go ahead and go next, and I'm going to keep the quarterback streak going here. I'm going to start with Will Howard over 240.5 passing yards. Howard has dominated when given the chance to play for K-State, and this game should be a high-scoring, fast-paced game. Howard should throw for 300 yards easily in this game, like Teats said. My second prop will be Jaden Daniels over 41.5 rushing yards. As you can see, he doesn't have a problem running the ball. Pop those stats up if you can. Yeah, he doesn't have a problem running the ball for this LSU team. Well over his total for the last 5 games. LSU needs to win, or for LSU to win, Daniels will have to make plays, happen with his legs framing out of the pockets against this good Georgia team. He's an electric player to watch, so I think he'll easily get this total over 37.5 rushing yards. And to off the quarterbacks here, I'm going to go to R.J. Harvey to score a rushing touchdown against Tulane for UCF.
I like it.
Yep, Tulane struggled against the run, as I said, and Harvey didn't find the end zone in their first game against Tulane. So look for him to find the end zone in this one. So those are my 3 player props for the college football slate. Let's go to Trey.
I like it. And I'm going to go to a quarterback player prop, and I'm going to throw a curveball at you guys. I'm going to go with an under here, and it's with the best quarterback on the board, Drake May. But he's also going against the best defense in the probably in the country, maybe with Clemson. Their defensive line is monsters, and all of them should make it to the NFL. I think I think May is going to get baptized into the pass rush in this game. 295.5 is pretty high against Clemson. If you look at his most recent games, he hasn't really sniffed this number in the last 2 games. Maybe he's hitting that rookie wall because he is a freshman. So maybe he's, kind of getting tired, body's getting worn down. So I'm going to go under on the 295.5. And then, I don't just like to do under, so I'm going to throw an over at you guys. I'm going to go with Malik Knowles over receiving yards at 35 or at 63.5. Malik Knowles is an absolute weapon in the Wildcat offense. Last week he did have a dud against KU, but like Teats said, they didn't need to have a big game. They could have, ran out their JV team and beat KU. But if you look at all the other games against Oklahoma State, Texas, West Virginia, he was cooking them. Texas has one of the best defenses in the Big 12, so to get 93 yards against them is pretty impressive. Now, if we go to TCU, which has one of the worst passing defenses in the Big 12, 63.5 is pretty easy. So I like that play for him. And I can't give you guys a majority of overs, so I'm going to go with an under here. And it's a weird under. Whenever I saw it, I was kind of shocked at the number, but under minus 7.5 rushing yards.
Oh, geez.
If you look at it, he has hit this in 3 out of his 5 games, and you lost on the hook on one of them, so it should be 4 out of the 5. Fresno State's passing offense is electric, but you know what isn't electric? Their offensive line. Their offensive line ranks in the bottom third in college football in sacks allowed with just over 3 a game. And on the flip side, Boise State's pass rush is in the top third of college football with just under 3 sacks a game. So I think we only need him to get sacked twice for this to hit because he does not use his legs at all. He is definitely a pocket passer. He can maybe even be sacked once in this number to hit, but we just need to get him sacked twice, and that's easy money for us. This might be my lock of the weekend, if we're being honest.
Oh, my God. That's the most unique stat line I think I've ever seen. I've never seen a quarterback with an over-under of negative 7.5. Like, not even just like a -1 or something. Negative 7.5. Like, they're expecting him to lose rushing yards immediately.
It's not low enough.
You're the only person I know, Trey, that would take an under of negative yards. Like that.
And somebody watching this is going to back me up. And you know what?
I hope
we're going to be rolling into Sunday with extra money in our pockets.
I hope that wins. That'll be insane.
I do.
That'll do it for our college football weekend slate. Let's get over to FanDuel again for our NFL games this weekend. We're going to start with the Packers versus Bears game. The Packers are -3.5. The over/under is 44.5. Teats, I'll start with you.
The question is going to be: is Justin Fields playing? And I think that.
I mean, he did have a full practice.
I would say
today.
he had a full practice. I think he's trending towards it. Dude, the Packers are just deflated. They're just not doing great. They have a small advantage in running game versus most teams, but Aaron Rodgers does not look like himself, does not seem like himself. I think they're just kind of playing for seeing what the future might hold with him right now, and I think that the Bears are starting to figure something out. I like the Bears, especially with the +3.5. I think that they can definitely keep this a very competitive game. Justin Fields, obviously, he's turned into one of the most electric running quarterbacks since, last year, year before with Lamar Jackson, anytime that he's on the field. And I think that I also like the over in this game as well. I think that the Bears by themselves could score about 30, 35 points. And all that needs is the Packers to get like 1-2 touchdowns tops. I think that the Bears are going to win outright. I just don't want to take that, though.
All right, so you're on the Bears +3.5 and the over. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm going to do the reverse of you here. Take the under 44.5 and the Packers -3.5. The only reason you said it yourself, the Packers are deflated, but the Packers are out of the playoffs, right? Now,
no, not
this
yet.
is the game. Technically,
basically, but statistically not yet.
This is
But
the game Aaron
essentially,
Rodgers is going to win because he says every single time he plays the Bears, he owns them. So I'm going to take Aaron Rodgers to win this game in his Super Bowl this year. Packers -3.5 in the under. I think this is going to be a really low-scoring game, like a 17-13 kind of ugly game. But I'm going to take Packers in the under. Trey?
The under might be a lock if Jesse's taking it,
I
but
know, I'm never taking
I
it.
mean, there are a lot of good trends for the Chicago Bears to win this game. The Packers are 0-4 ATS in their last 4 games versus a team with a losing record. They can't even cover. And the Packers are 2-7 ATS in their last 9 road games. But I'm not going to take it because I don't know if Justin Fields is playing yet. I do expect him to play, but I am going to hammer that over 44.5. The trends are even better for the over. The over is 6-0 in the Bears' last 6 games overall. The over is 5-1 in the Bears' last 6 games in December. The over is 6-1 in the Packers' last 7 games versus a team with a losing record. And the over is 4-0 in the Packers' last 4 games on grass. So I'm going to go over 44.5. Aaron Rodgers owns Chicago. Justin Fields loves the end zone. So I'm going to go over 44.5 there.
All right, so it looks like team overs because, like I said, Packers minus 3.5 and the over 44.5 in this game after those trends. He's on the Bears plus 3 in the over 44.5, and Trey's on the over 44.5. All right, let's move on to the Miami versus 49ers. 49ers are minus 3.5. The over under is 46.5. I'm going to start because I kind of have a hot take in this game. Maybe a hot take. It might not be too hot, but I think 49ers right now, in my mind, have the best chance to win the Super Bowl, in my opinion. They are loaded on offense with skill players, and they have one of the best teams in the league. They also have Jimmy G at quarterback. So as good as they are, Jimmy G is holding this team back a little bit. I still think they could win the Super Bowl if the playoffs start today. So I'm going to take 49ers minus the 3.5 to shut down the Dolphins' offense. Teats?
I don't know about that one, but I see what the Dolphins do every week, and I know that they're not the most polished team, and the 49ers do have one of the best defenses in the league, and their offense has so many gadgets that they can do whatever they want at any given time. But I can't not go with my gut. I'm taking the Dolphins plus 3.5 here. I think that their offensive options are just too good that the 49ers defense is not going to be able to completely shut it down. You have 2 dudes on the outside who can burn past the safeties and cornerbacks almost at will. It's just, can they body catch? Can they catch clean? Or are they going to just let some balls pop off their chest?
True. So you have Miami plus the 3.5. I have 49ers minus 3.5. Trey, what about you?
The student is up against the master, McDaniel versus Shanahan. This should be a lot of fun to watch. But each of them knows how their offense plays. McDaniel came from the 49ers, as we all know. So obviously Shanahan kind of knows what to expect from the Dolphins, and McDaniel kind of knows what to expect against the 49ers. So I'm going to go with the under 46.5, and the trends back that up. The under is 6-1 in the 49ers' last 7 home games. The under is 4-1 in the 49ers' last 5 games in December. Their defense shows up as the playoffs come closer. And the under is 5-2 in the Dolphins' last 7 games versus a team with a winning record. The Dolphins' defense has gotten a lot of schmuck, but you could look at that either way. Maybe that says the Dolphins' offense doesn't play as good versus good teams rather than saying the Dolphins' defense shows up, because the Dolphins' defense is not good. I think this is more of me betting on the 49ers kind of shutting down the Dolphins, but I don't think that the 49ers should put up a lot of points against the Dolphins either. So,
all right, so we're on the under 49ers minus 3.5 and the Dolphins plus 7.5. Let's move on to the best game on Sunday. Chiefs versus the Bengals. Chiefs minus 2.5, over under 52.5. Teats, I'll start with you.
I can't go against the Chiefs. The one time I go against them, typically I haven't bet them much this year, but the one time I really went against them, although they barely covered, they did cover. I think that the Chiefs' entire team is going to show up. They feel like they kind of got screwed over last year, the 2 games that they played. I think they want blood. They want vengeance. I think that the Chiefs want to make a statement as they're the best team in the AFC, and I think that they're going to do so. So Chiefs minus 2.5. 2.5 is a perfect spread. They may win this game by a field goal. They may blow out Joe Burrow and the entire Bengals team. So we'll see.
Wow, Teats. I will say the Bengals are back to winning games and winning games against good teams, and they're doing it without Jamar Chase. They're going to get Jamar Chase back in this game, and they're also going to get Joe Mixon back as well. The only problem for the Bengals this week is that they're going against the chosen one, and that's Patrick Mahomes, because Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback to ever step foot on a football field. I want it to be on video for me to say that, and he's going to win this game late in dramatic fashion like he always does. It seems like every week He drives the team down the field and they win. So give me the Chiefs minus the 2.5. Trey?
You guys are stooges. Home dogs for the AFC champions? Are you kidding me? This is incredibly disrespectful in my eyes, and I think the Bengals are aware that they are home dogs, and I think they're going to come out and make a statement against the Chiefs. I just want you guys to sit back and enjoy these trends. I'm going to call these the mirror trends because they're going to be going back and forth, because I'm going to go with the Bengals money line here. The Chiefs are 0-3-1 ATS in their last 4 games. The Bengals are 7-1 ATS in our last 8 home games. The Chiefs are 1-5 ATS in our last 6 games versus a team with a winning record. The Bengals are 11-1 ATS in our last 12 games versus a team with a winning record. The Chiefs are 0-7-1 in their last 8 games versus an AFC opponent, while the Bengals are 14-3 ATS in their last 17 games versus an AFC opponent. So I don't know what you guys are talking about, the chosen one. He might be good at football, but he cannot cover. I'm going Bengals, home dogs, money line, plus money, lock it in.
Now, let me say something real quick to defend at least the whole against winning teams. It's really hard for the Chiefs to play winning teams at times when their entire division is below 500 most of the seasons.
True.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I will ask you, is there a trend on that sheet that shows how many times Mahomes has taken the team down the field to win in the last couple of minutes?
I mean, I have not found that trend, but it's...
If he covers his spread in that last-minute touchdown, then it was on there. But all I saw was a bunch of zeros in that ATS.
That's all right. All right, we'll move on then. We'll move on. Chiefs and Bengals money line. Let's move on to the last game, Sunday Night Football. Colts versus Cowboys. Cowboys, minus 10.5, over under 43.5. I'm going to make this real simple for the people. Dallas minus 10.5 and Dallas Cowboys to score are the plays in this game. It is very possible. I don't wish harm on anybody, but it's very possible Matt Ryan dies in this game. Micah Parsons might get killed, and he might kill him. So Cowboys in a rout. I don't know if the Colts are even going to score in this game. Trey?
Jeff Saturday is 1-2 as the Colts head coach, but it's impossible to say that he has not been successful because he does have the boys buzzing. In those 2 losses, they have been incredibly competitive games, and he hasn't lost yet by more than a touchdown. So I'm going to go under 43.5. I think this should be a slobber knocker of a slower down, dust them up game. The under is 8-1 in the Colts' last 9 road games. The under is 6-2 in the Cowboys' last 8 home games. The under is 14-3 in the Colts' last 17 games overall, and the under is 6-0 in the Colts' last 6 games versus a team with a winning record. Matt Ryan might die. That is very true. Micah Parsons should eat him alive, but DeVorest Buckner and the boys should show up as well. And the Cowboys should score 30 in this game, but I'm not quite for sure if the Colts can make it to 10.
Yeah, Teats, before you go, I'm going to add Dallas team total over, whatever it is. So, Teats, go ahead.
I don't know if I'm doing you a favor or if I just want to just continue to go against you a little bit this time, Bear, but I'm going to take Colts plus 10. I'm like I said, I might be helping you out. Me not going with the boys might mean that the boys want to win, but with the under being 43.5, I just think the 10.5 is going to be too big, kind of like what Trey said. Jeff Saturday has not lost by more than a touchdown yet. He took the Eagles down to the wire. I know the Eagles might be frauds, even though they did cover last week.
Eagles are frauds.
But still, that's a huge accomplishment, especially for someone that just stepped into coaching. So I think that they are going to get some momentum. It's going to really come down to, is Matt Ryan going to be beheaded, or is he going to be able to get the ball out before Micah Parsons can eat him?
All right, so you're on the Colts plus 10.5. Let's switch over to PrizePicks for the NFL props. I will say this about the Dallas Cowboys. I'm usually the first one on board that saes that dogs this team, but I'm very confident in this week. So I love the Cowboys game. Love
They're
them.
playing the Colts. And then again, as a Chiefs fan, that's one of our worst losses this year is against the Colts. So it is what it is.
I'll say, that your opponent is so bad when the whole world is crying. Why did you not flex out this game?
I know. Yeah, Colts are bad. But all right, let's get into some player props. Trey, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I'll start us off with some magic. Mike White, 238.5. I think that's disrespectful for him. Whenever he has played a full game, he has lit up the opposing defense other than New England. Because Cincinnati last year, 405. Chicago last week, 315. If you look at the Buffalo last year, 251. So he was doing pretty good so far this season. I like Mike White. And if you flip it over to the Vikings defense, the Vikings are dead last in the NFL in pass yards allowed per game at 276 per game. That is absurdly high. That is so bad. Usually we praise quarterbacks for getting to 300 passing yards, and the Vikings are almost allowing that per game. So Mike White should be able to get the ball out quick, getting it to Elijah Moore, getting it to Garrett Wilson, and I think that he should hit this number pretty easily. And then my next one is going to be Justin Jefferson. I'm going to stick in this game, but I'm going to go with a Minnesota Vikings player with Justin Jefferson because I think that this number is just pretty low because they think that Sauce Gardner is going to lock this kid down. But I don't think that they know who Justin Jefferson is. Justin Jefferson is going to baptize Sauce Gardner into playing the cornerback position in the NFL. Sauce, I mean, he's done great this year, but he has not played Justin Jefferson yet. Justin Jefferson has people in the spin cycle 5 yards down the field, let alone whenever he breaks off for a 20-yard route and runs for 80 yards to the touchdown. I think 85.5 is low. I think that he should hit this. He might hit this by the end of the third quarter. So I really like this play. And then I'm going to go a little off course with my last one. I'm going to go with a fantasy score. I was just looking for something a little off the grid, and this one popped up because Gus Edwards is elite when healthy. J.K. Dobbins still isn't back in the fold, and the Ravens love Gus Edwards whenever he can seemingly show up to play a game because whenever he is healthy and in the lineup, the Ravens feed him. And he doesn't really have very much competition for carries besides Kenyon Drake. And if you look at this, 8.5 is very low. That's a touchdown and 25 yards. And he hit this last week against the Jaguars, hit it in October against the Browns. And if you go back to last season, whenever he was healthy, he had 14 fantasy points. And that's whenever it was just him. J.K. Dobbins was hurt. And I think that this is going to be kind of a repeat of that. So I'm looking for him to shatter that and get to at least double digits.
Yeah, I really like that Gus Edwards pick there. I'm going to go ahead and go with mine next. I'm going to start in the Chiefs game. Patrick Mahomes over 306.5 passing yards. Let's see if it's changed.
That is so high. 306.
Oh, 306.5. I don't have to break this down. Pat's him. Look at all the green.
Jesus.
Look at all the green. He's gonna have to have his best game of the year this year. This game against the Bengals to win this week. So far, he hasn't shown he won't be able to hit that number. So I'm more than happy to take the over 306.5 in that game.
I forgot.
I'm going to stay in this game for my second player prop. Joe Burrow over 295.5 passing yards. Yeah. Do you guys think Joe Nasty is going to sit around and watch Mahomes light up the scoreboard? No. He is a competitor. He's going to match everything Mahomes does in this game, and it should be really fun to watch the young players try to outdo each other. So I'm going to take his over 295.5 passing yards in that game as well. And then my last one is going to be George Pickens over 46.5 receiving yards versus Atlanta. Pickens has become Pickett's favorite target over the past 2 to 3 games. These two, if they stay together, have a lot of potential to be one of the best quarterback wide receiver duos in the league in a couple years. So I like his chances against Atlanta this week to get well over his 46-yard projection. Teats?
I don't see our friend who typically does the hot takes. That was a pretty hot take right there, Bear.
No, I don't think that's hot at all. I think Pickens and Pickett might be the best wide receiver quarterback duo in 3 or 4 years. I really do.
If there's a way that we can screen record this and have a little calendar day to look back in 3 to 4 years.
The Steelers are the best organization of developing wide receivers. And if they could
are.
just develop Pickett to be able to throw a ball, maybe get the gloves off his hands, then, the sky's the limit.
They really are.
Pickett has looked a lot better of late. He's really been right in front of our eyes. So I think they have a shot. So, Teats, how about you?
Well, Trey, we don't have to actually move very far. We can go ahead and start with George Pickens. I, too, have him over 46.5 yards for the same reason. He is the favorite target. Deontay Johnson kind of gets some targets from here and there. He does okay. But Pickens is he's just a physical monster. And he will go up, he'll catch the ball. And when Pickett has to chuck a ball up in the air, who else to throw to besides Pickens? I will then take you guys to a disgusting play. It's rushing yards. It's the New York Giants. It's Saquon. Dude, it hurts to talk about, but the offense is bad now.
Oh my God, he has been bad the past 2 weeks.
Bad. Well, there's no one on that offense. Like, they have Darius Slayton, and they have him. Daniel Jones does not have any receivers to really throw to anymore besides Slayton. And they're also playing against Washington, who The last time I took a running back against Washington Redskins, I think it was, I'm trying to think who it was. It was like Damian Pierce or something like that, and he had like 12 yards rushing. I don't think that Saquon's going to end with 12, but I don't think he's reaching that 70.5. I think that teams just understand too much that they're going to have to key on him because he's the only person that can move the ball. So there's my disgusting under. Hopefully I can go take a shower after this. I don't want to talk about that anymore. Here's my last one, boys. Let's go over to the passing yards, and all I have to say is this. Broncos country, let's ride. Russell Wilson over 218.5 passing yards. Ultimately, he's not been doing great this year. But in terms of yards, he can get over 218 yards. He just can't get any sort of touchdowns. So I think that 218.5 against a Baltimore secondary that's very easy to beat, I think we're looking more like around the 260, 280 range, as long as Hackett doesn't watch this video and then completely scheme things in a way that Russell Wilson's just doing 2-yard checkdowns and then they punt.
That's what he's good at. But I like you feeling dangerous with Wilson. I like that a lot.
Feeling dangerous over here.
Let's that'll do it for our NFL player props for this weekend. Let's get into our weekend bet slips for championship week in the NFL. I'm going to start. I have USC money line. That game's currently going on. Utah was down 17-3 when we started. They are now 17-17 at the half. They're
wow.
USC is losing because I'm not watching. That has to be it. So that's the only explanation. But I have USC money line. LSU plus 17.5. I didn't take them on the money line bet slip, but I did take them plus 17.5 for the reasons I gave earlier. K-State money line to beat TCU and to ruin their chances to make the college football playoffs. Titans plus 4.5 versus the Eagles. The Eagles are frauds. The Titans are much more physical than the Eagles. I think the Titans win this game, but I'm going to take Titans plus 4.5. Pittsburgh Steelers -1 versus Atlanta. Pittsburgh has an opportunity if they win this game. They played the Colts last week, correct?
Yep. Monday Night Football.
Yeah, if Steelers beat Atlanta, I looked at their schedule and it's cakewalk. So Pittsburgh, if they beat Atlanta here, have a chance to win out and make the playoffs. It's crazy to say.
Oh wow!
But Pittsburgh has a chance to make the playoffs. So, but it starts here with a win against Atlanta. And my last one's going to be the Commanders versus the Giants under 40.5. Two divisional teams, hard fought game. Under 40.5 should be 13-10 kind of game. But I like Commanders to pull it out and win that one. But I'm going to take the under 40.5 for that.
I like that one. An under.
Yeah, an under. I rarely give out unders, but Teats, how about you?
Well, I brought 4 picks, didn't realize that I didn't have to talk about one of them, basically. So as you heard Bear talk about, as we both talked about earlier in this video, LSU plus 17.5. I don't have to talk about that much. I think that 17.5 is just way too big of a spread for Georgia to cover against a really good team. K-State, TCU, we talked about that already as well. Over 62. I don't need to talk about it much more. Let's get over to some NFL. Jets, Vikings, over 44.5. We touched on it a little bit with Mike White. Dude, the Jets offense with Mike White is actually looking dangerous. And the Vikings defense against quarterbacks is atrocious. I think this is going to end up being a shootout, honestly. It's going to be really fun to watch Sauce Gardner and Jay Jetta go at it. It's like a unstoppable force versus a unmovable object. Yeah, exactly. So we'll see how that ends up, but I think over 44.5, I'm looking at like a 31-27 type of ball game. And I went on the opposite way. I went Eagles -4.5. I may have a problem. You guys may
laughed whenever I saw that.
You guys may still need to see if I need some help over here. I don't know. It might be some Stockholm syndrome. But they covered for me the last time I talked about them, even though I'm like 1-9 with them. I'm just going to keep riding them for the rest of the season. It is what it is.
It's a disease, Teats, at this point. That's crazy. All right, Trey, how about you?
I touched on most of these games. Actually, I touched on all these games already, so I'm not going to deliver you guys any trends with them. I'm just going to quickly touch them. K-State money line. That's probably my favorite bet of the weekend. It seems to be one of our favorite bets. So TCU money line might be the play to fade us. Who knows? But K-State has looked every ounce better than TCU. TCU just somehow manages to win these games. But K-State, if you look at it overall, their offense is wheeling and dealing. Their defense loves to show up and make this an ugly game. So I like K-State money line there. And if you look at Purdue, I told you guys the edge earlier. I think Purdue is going to play with a lot of heart, and the trends were on Purdue's side. So I'm going to go Purdue plus 16.5 there. And then if you go over to Sunday, the Broncos, let's ride plus 9.5. I like them as money line as well because I put them as my weekend dog. Russell Wilson should be able to demolish the easy Baltimore Ravens passing defense. And I even just Googled whenever we were talking about the player props, Googled the weather because I was like, all these props for this game are so low. Is it going to snow? Is it going to rain? As of right now, 20% chance of rain. So it's not like it's going to be showering. So I think that Russell Wilson should be able to air the ball out against the very, very vulnerable Ravens pass defense. And then the under on the Dolphins 49ers game, I think that both of them knows each other's schemes really well. So I think it's going to be tough to really scheme something open because they're going to know exactly what to look for. Maybe you do a fake reverse scheme. I don't know, to kind of outthink them. Who knows? But I think the under 46.5 is the play. I think this should probably be like a 21-20 game. So those are my 4 weekend locks that I'm going to be placing in on my bet slip.
All right, looks like 4 picks, 4 locks right there. Let's get into the last segment of the show. We have the podcast parlay for this weekend's slate. I'm going to start with K-State moneyline. We've been talking it up all show. K-State moneyline to knock out TCU of the college football playoffs. Trey?
Broncos, let's ride. Plus 9.5. I think that this is a pretty good bet. Lamar Jackson passing props, rushing props are all really low. There's no other way for the Ravens to win this game because their rush defense is not elite. Their offensive line isn't elite. Their receivers are not good. So I think that the Broncos simply just need to show up and just get out of their own way, and they should have a chance to win this game, let alone cover the 9.5.
I agree. How about you, Teats?
Before I say that, actually, I just remembered. I think my favorite fact that I read recently is that if the Broncos would score literally 18 points a game, just 18, they'd be like 9-1. Like they would be playoff bound.
That's what I'm saying. They just need to
Was
get
it even 18? I thought it was. I honestly thought it was lower than that.
No, the one I read was 18 because they're averaging like 14 points right now. Like wow. The defense is mad, and Russell Wilson's going to need to talk to his agent, to talk to his players so that he can figure something out. I love it. K-State, TCU over 61.5. We talked about it, dude. Both of these teams, it's Big 12 football. Defense isn't really always a thing here. TCU's defense stifled the run, against Texas, but their passing defense, not great. K-State, they're pretty much one of the most balanced defenses the Big 12 has, but they still give up points. I think 61.5 is very doable, especially in a high intense offensive game.
All right, that'll do it for our podcast parlay for this weekend's slate, and that will do it for our weekend picks, predictions, and player props. If you guys enjoyed the content, please make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. We have had a ton of interaction and support over the last week, so thank you guys so much. We really appreciate all the love, and we will see you guys next video. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, guys.